ready. It's story time. This story is directed at my white friends. A few years ago, probably better 20 years ago, I picked up a colleague here, young lady, I think she was 19 or 20 at the time. There's a casino in the area where you could be 18. So we left work and drove up in my old Chevy Nova that I had at the time, and was going to go gambling for a couple of hours. She had never been into a casino, and I was going to drop a few dollars while I was there. So anyway, we're driving along Highway 16, and I see a highway patrolman, and he looks really deeply. It's a look, if you're a person of color, you may be familiar with. It's like, oh, this could be something. And indeed it was something. So I looked in the rearview mirror, and sure enough, he made a U-turn. So I told my friend, I said, okay, I need you to be cool. We're going to be stopped. That was a mistake. An epic mistake on my part, because she freaked. What are we getting stopped for? I don't believe why we're being stopped. I said, I just need you to be cool, because whatever you do, I'm going to be arrested. So the person comes in, we pull over. Sure enough, he hits the light before we hit Sunrise, and he pulls us over and asks me for ID and all the necessary papers. And she is outraged, and he's looking up at her up and down. And she's old enough to be my daughter. And so he's looking her up and down, because clearly there's something wrong. But the stop was short. My tags are up, my lights work, license in check, no warrants. Sorry. But she was outraged. But she was a witness. Because I think a lot of people, it's difficult, particularly if you don't know a lot of black people. It's difficult. You're probably saying, well, black people are always up to stuff, because anytime we're stopped, we're always up to something. There are people who actually believe that. But she was a witness, and it changed her life. And anyone who knows her, who talks negatively about black, or I know this person really well, if they said, oh, black people not so, they're just belly aching, she was a witness. And she won't take it, and she will give them face-to-face lip service to correct them. But if that hadn't happened, it wouldn't have changed her life. Second story is more interesting. A friend of mine, a professional here in the area, broke his leg. And he was in the hospital for a few weeks, and he had just bought a brand new S-Class. And for whatever reason, he entrusted me with the car. I was a wreck, at the time I was driving a Pontiac Sunfire, and to go from a Sunfire that's worth maybe $3,000 to a car that's worth $150,000, knowing I'm going to be stopped at any moment, which didn't happen until. So when he came out to hospital, there was a problem. But he didn't call me, because I would have taken him to the hospital. Someone else took him, and he called me to pick him up. And he says, they're going to push me out, just pick me up. So we went, I went to Sutter. There he was waiting for me, and someone helped him in the car. And we're driving along, heading towards Granite Bay. And sure enough, I was pulled over. And I slowed down. He goes, what's going on? Why are you pulling over? And I said, just hang on a second. He said, is something wrong? I said, because before that, he sympathized with black people, but he thought maybe we were just panicking and overreacting, because like a lot of white people believe that if you're pulled over, the police would never pull you over for just anything. You had to be doing something. You had to be guilty of something for the police to pull you over. And there he was, a disbeliever, but a good friend of mine. that he's being pulled over. And so before the guy could, I'm reaching in my pocket and I said, can you open up your glove box for the registration and insurance payment? He went off. And the officer picked the wrong car that day because he was just outraged. What did he do? The officer could barely say anything. I figured they're going to have backup and we're going to end up on the news that night because he was just outraged. It just seemed incredible to him that anyone would just be pulled over for no reason. This car is brand spanking new. But what he didn't realize was when I went to pick him up, he always wears a suit. He wears a suit to go to Dairy Queen. But he asked me to pick him up. I threw on any shirt, any shorts, and some flip-flops. Like there was a bad sale at Walmart. That's what I look like. And so my take was, I think the officer thought I'm driving this expensive car and there's a white man, and I'm probably carjacked the car. Now you would say, why would you think that way? Because in America, that happens to black men. I wasn't Hoke dressed in a suit driving him around. I'm in a George by Walmart with holes in it, ashy legs, and taking him there. And so, again, the officer was just out, officer just wanted to get away, and he wanted to know everything, commanding officer, everything. He wrote a letter, and we both received letters of apology. But it changed him forever. Changed him so much that he was protesting last year. He was part of something where they're calling around people in Placer County to protest, and they did around the mall. There were people standing around town protesting George Floyd. And there he was. And it has changed his life to the point that he is an advocate for people of color. This rarely happens. Rarely happens. Because you got to ask yourself, blacks make up, African Americans make up, I believe, 14% of the population, yet the images you see are black people. Black men are terrified of police officers because we don't know what to expect. We don't have to have a warrant to be stopped. We don't have to have lights to be stopped. We can just be stopped for just being us. And it's not just black people, depending on where. It could be Asians if you're in Southern California or other areas where there are a lot of Asians are the dominant population, or Hispanics. We are stopped because of what we look like. We don't necessarily have to do anything wrong. And I know the America you live in, people are not stopped, but there are even whites who are stopped. But you're not seeing images of them being killed or choked to death or shot, or you're not seeing those images. So when you hear the term Black Lives Matter, imagine your neighborhood going up. There are houses that are in flames, or houses going up, there's trees going up in your neighborhood, but there's one particular house that is in a lot of trouble. There are people inside, so the attention's paid on this house because this house has an immediate need. That's black in America. Those are black people in America. These are images that you see on TV. Images of black people. Your life is important. So is everyone else's life is important. But this is not happening to people who look like you. It's happening to people who look like me, who are being killed on your HD flat TV on the news. They're being choked out. They're people like me. That's why our lives matter. Nobody said it matters more than yours, because people get that twisted. They go, oh, why are their lives matter more than? No. That house on that block with people inside needs more attention than the other houses on that block. All those houses are important. to all the homeowners and the people who occupy those homes. But this house has an immediate need. There are people inside. So that's why the fire department is choosing all their resources and energy to put this and save this particular family, because there's an immediate need. So, Rodfather 916, hit that subscribe button. Argue with me. I love arguments. I talk a lot about race. I talk a lot about race because I want to pull the curtain back. I learned something from every discussion I have. I hope you've learned a little bit from me. If you disagree with me, put it in here. This is a friendly, safe place. I'm not going to attack you for having an opinion. If you disagree with me, if you agree with me, put it there. If you like anything you've seen here, share it with your friends. I'd appreciate that. I haven't been around. I'm working on it, getting more videos out. But do that. Subscribe, please. Meanwhile, wishing you love, joy, and happiness. Wear your mask. Be happy, okay? Rodfather 916, Sacramento, out.